Hey guys, I was just gonna make a comment. I was listening to this show about Dogman, and I want to play this for you and then comment on it. Let me find it.
Actually, I
This
recently this
is
one, and
Cryptid Brothers Investigation, and this guy's talking about an event that occurred in the desert where he saw Dogman.
realized you got to be kidding me. That's exactly what I said. And when I rolled over, this thing bounded off like I don't even know how to describe it. It looked like a science fiction movie, one of them animated rapid deals where they go away. And I
Said one of them animated rapid deals where they go away. And it's funny because I go up north Georgia quite a bit, and the other day, well, a couple weeks back, I saw basically what I've seen it several times. I mean, if you guys have listened to my videos, I saw one dog man where he was running, and they run differently. Where the bigs are just kind of smooth with their head. When I've seen them walk or run, this dog man was kind of bouncing as he ran, but with his at first it looked like a pterodactyl, really, the way what I saw from the side. But then somebody described what they seen as the elbows down by the side and then the arms out, and so that made more sense because it just almost looked like he had little arms with hanging hands, but they run so fast. And I've seen bigs do this, from tree to tree, but for whatever reason, the dogmen, when if you're seeing them in that mode, which that's all I've been seeing, I haven't had visuals like these guys have, where it's just real still and real close like that. But I've seen a multitude of these. And I saw one the other day, a couple weeks back, where I'm walking down this road. And I know he just did this to let me see him. And by the way, these guys talk about the dogmen being so vicious and scary, and I'm sure I've been encountering these guys all along during my whole Bigfoot stuff, but now I'm more cognizant of the fact that these guys are out there. And anyway, I saw this one run across my forward path there, and he literally, it was the strangest thing. I mean, it was basically an upright, large dog. I would say 7.5, 8 feet tall, but running by him like a flash, just like that guy described. And it was almost like cartoon like. And that's exactly what I told my wife. I said, and I was almost, again, most people are embarrassed to talk about that. The reason you're embarrassed to talk about it is because it almost seems unreal, and the cartoonish aspect of it, seeing them go by like that, it's just you're seeing an upright dog, without getting a lot of detail on them. You could tell that's what it was. I knew that's what it was because I've seen the bigs, and that was no big run by, and you're almost embarrassed to even tell anybody. From several aspects, the upright dog, and then also just the way it just flashes by. And I've seen them so many times in this mode. And I don't know why they do that a lot more than the bigs do. There's a lot of aspects that they're very different from the dogmen. They don't, the bigs do a lot of tree knocks and things like that. I don't hear the dogmen doing a lot of tree knocks. What I have heard a lot of, and this, I also heard this in Texas, where I really think it was a dogman that charged us. Went straight at us and then veered off to the right before it got to the path. And literally, somebody that I was with got a photo of their eye as they were running to the side. But one of the things that I noticed that they do is it sounds like they take a giant rock and whack it against a piece of wood or something. I don't know what maybe they're punching wood. I have no idea, but it just sounds like a railroad tie and a giant rock. And that's what happened before we got charged over there. And I've noticed in this area I go to where they're definitely, at. I hear that a lot, that big whack, and it's not like the bigs do. The bigs, I think, will either do with their hand or their mouth, that knocking sound, what we consider to be knocking sound, but it almost sounds like they're just taking a giant rock and whacking something. But anyway, so I heard that guy's description there, and I've seen it so many times now, and it's amazing. And you cannot tell me that they're not in some other, or they're not able to phase into that other, kind of very parallel dimension, if you will, because that the way the speed that they're moving is physically, it just can't be, physically in this dimension. Now, physically in that dimension, where somehow we've got line of sight of them still, and that dimension moves more rapidly than our dimension, and it just flies by, then that's possible. And I've seen other stuff. I don't know if you guys have watched my other videos in the past, but I've seen one night my dog and I, were walking. It was late night, and this was in a neighborhood I lived in quite a while ago. And we see an upright, what almost looked like a kind of like a ferret, if you will, I guess, ferret slash cat, but it was upright, and his hands were up like this, and standing upright. And I'm looking at, and it's glowing white, by the way. And I'm looking at this thing, and my dog's looking at this thing, and we're literally on a neighborhood road, but it's late night, nobody's up, foggy, a little foggy. And this thing jumps back from the road where we're at, and we're across the road on the other side, and jumps back 20, 30 feet, just like a flash, backwards, and then shoots off to the at a right angle, another direction. It almost looks like it goes through this car that was parked there. This is the neighborhood where I was at. And no, it's definitely not a physical animal. And so, I've seen this many times over, and that I have no idea what the hell that was. It was the strangest thing. It was like, again, you're almost embarrassed to tell anybody because it's so cartoon-like. And that's kind of the point I was going to make, is like, you see this crap, and it's so preposterous that you don't even want to tell anyone. Just seeing a giant, 8-10 foot man in the forest, Terry, is it's preposterous, unbelievable when you see him. You scratch your head and wonder how the hell they could even exist without anyone seeing them. But then when you understand these things, and the fact that they can shift, I totally believe they can shift into a different dimension. I don't know, and definitely, it's almost like they've got phases of this. I believe that they could vibrate out of our line of sight, and then they could shift into this different dimension that physically is still in our reality. I mean, I literally can hear their nails sometimes on the road. I know that they're there, where you could hear their nails click, and I think they do it on purpose, but you can't see them. So whether that's fully shifted or just out of line of sight, I don't know. But this whole speed thing where they fly by, that is absolutely not in our dimension. Physically, it just can't be how fast that is. So, for those of you who don't believe that this exists, and you've seen them physically, yeah, I've seen them physically too, but that doesn't mean they don't have other modes of being. And I told you guys a long time ago, I was given that they're the transcendents. They speak Latin. I've gotten them recorded many times over speaking Latin. Latin's an ancient language. They're said to be by the Native American Indians to have come before us. They were here before us. Latin's mysterious ancient language that supposedly we don't know the origins of. But I think that's crap. I think, they hoard all that information, but certainly they speak, well, here at least they speak Latin. And anyway, that's an ancient language, and that kind of tells me everything. I mean, it's interesting the way our languages were phased out and away from Latin, at least over on the West, and then these ancient people. That's the basis of their language. It's kind of interesting because that means now we don't speak the same language other than Spanish is very close, and it disallows us to communicate more readily. But again, they could read your mind, all that stuff. Anyway, I'm babbling now, but I did want to comment on that phase shift. I don't know what it is, but I see it more in the Dogman than I do the bigs. I've seen it plenty of times in the bigs. I've seen the lights with the bigs and all that other stuff, all the stuff that people talk about. But this whole cartoon thing seems to be more prevalent with the Dogman. I don't know why. So maybe they allow us to see that more than the bigs. So. All right, I'll let you guys go. I got to get back to work, but I just wanted to upload something real quick. As to the Latin language, I have emailed a few people, no response. I think what I'm going to end up having to do is just track someone down at a local university and see if they'll sit down with me and listen to it. I've been slammed busy. So, I mean, I can't make this a priority because it doesn't pay my bills, but I do intend to have someone that, speaks Latin, listen to it. I speak Spanish. It's pretty close. And I know, and I've looked up the Latin language. I know that it's Latin, that, Bermane, Iane, that's quintessential Latin. So, anyway, I'll let you guys go. Thanks.